Thank you for tuning in to the Helium Radio Network. You are listening to a rebroadcast of a previously recorded show.
Welcome to the Insurance Sucks podcast. Yeah, we know it sucks, but you have to buy it, and you probably don't have the smarts to figure out what you need or where to find it. That's why you should listen to Eric and Daryl, brought to you by QuoteSavage.com.
All right, this is Daryl. I'm here with Eric, my co-host.
Good morning.
And we have Chris over here with us today. And we are talking today about something that always pops up on social media. It is, does Lightning McQueen have life insurance or car insurance? I feel like this is an important debate.
It is. At least in the insurance industry.
Well, I think it pops up on Facebook, so it has to be like, you know, popular, and it's fun to watch people debate about what does he have. You know, does he have car insurance? Does he have life insurance? And I feel like in that universe, maybe the car insurance is really like health insurance.
Could be. But let me throw out just a zinger for you. Since they're all on a team, do they have key man policies in case one of them dies to replace them?
Ooh,
nice question.
Wow. That's deep. That's deep. So, you know, the question is he alive?
Well, I mean, if you ask any kid around the planet, they would say he's alive.
This is true. So he's alive. So life insurance will come into play, right?
Yeah.
And then you have the car insurance, which will cover him for collisions. And then, well, again, I would consider it health insurance as well. So it's interesting. And I don't know where I'm going with this.
Well, I mean, if you want to put it in a quantitative term, I'd say he's alive. He made over $1 billion in revenue for the Disney Corporation.
Made over $1 billion.
Yep.
They definitely like to keep that alive.
Right?
Keep that going.
So
that's just the Cars movie. The actual franchise, if you take in like all of the assets associated with that, like the movies and the toys and all the other stuff that goes with that, the brand has sold nearly $10 billion in merchandise by the time Cars 2 came out in 2011.
So that was in 2011, $2 billion?
$2 billion, or no, that was $10 billion in merchandise only. So I'm just looking through the copyrights here to see if I can get like, you know, how much the car franchise in its entirety has made.
You know, that was like 10 years ago.
Yep.
So, you know, I feel like if they could, Disney would definitely get life insurance on Lightning McQueen and probably Mater. You know, that's crazy. It's crazy. And then you talk about, you know, Disney and Lightning McQueen and Cars, but what about Fox and Transformers? Because that takes place in our universe. So they are machines. So do you insure those? And what would it take to insure those?
It's a bold question.
So, which is even scarier is if you look at, well, the numbers just keep getting higher and higher because now you have to count in the theme parks and all the real estate and everything else. So I just gave up. I'm just Googling here, and it's we're over $20 billion at this point. So
$20 billion
yeah.
For a talking car.
For a talking car.
We're in the wrong business.
So I would say Disney probably has car insurance, life insurance, accident insurance, keyman policy insurance. Does he live in a house? They probably got some homeowners insurance.
Right.
For his garage.
Definitely for the garage.
What about the tools? You know, the tools that fix them, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Probably got some insurance for the tools.
Little Guido.
Flood insurance as well, yeah.
Flood insurance, yeah. They're in Florida. They probably got hurt. Can you get hurricane insurance?
Yeah, well, yeah.
So, probably got hurricane coverage.
And then when he's in California?
Yeah.
Earthquake.
Fire
and earthquake.
Yeah. Mudslides.
Dangerous world.
Yeah, it is to be an animated car.
Right.
For Transformers, I would have to argue. I'd say probably most definitely has car insurance because if you think about it, what's his face drives Bumblebee.
Yeah, Shia LaBeouf.
Yeah.
Or is it? No, is it?
Well, now it's a new guy.
Yeah.
Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that.
And wasn't there somebody in between Mark Wahlberg? No. I think Shia was in like for 1 or 2, and then it switched over to Mark Wahlberg.
Mark Wahlberg, and then you have Megan Fox was there for a while.
Yeah, because the first main character is kind of wigged out. Megan Fox pretty much talked smack about Michael Bay. He wrote her out. Shia LaBeouf went crazy. He got arrested and started doing whatever drugs, alcohol, whatever it was that he was doing, and
Yeah.
now he's gone.
So now it's Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Which, honestly, it's probably an upgrade.
Yeah, well, and the little kid, little kid. She's probably in her 20s, but she played like a teenager in the last film. I don't
Right.
remember her name, but you've got her.
Yeah.
So the question is, did they actually register them as cars, or did they just have fake license plates?
Oh, well, you hope they follow the law and they register them as cars.
But what happens if they get pulled over? Do they ever get pulled over?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, you're still, unless they're fighting a Decepticon, they're still just, a car. At that point, everything would play out. But could you imagine if you were driving and you rear-ended Bumblebee with Mark Wahlberg in it?
You better have some good insurance coverage.
Well, that's the thing. Like okay, it went from a normal fender bender to now you've damaged a multi-million-dollar piece of equipment and potentially injured a guy who makes several $1 million with his body. So, what kind of liability are you looking at there?
Probably a lot. I mean, what's Mark Wahlberg's net worth?
Oh gosh, he's got to be in the tens of millions.
You think?
So you're saying the PIP is not enough to cover it?
No, that's definitely not what I'm saying. And so if we look at all those wonderful things, going back to it, let's say you're in a normal car, Chris, and you are just driving around town, and then you rear-end a Ferrari. Well, a fender bender on a Ferrari isn't the same as a fender bender on a Honda Civic,
Nope.
right? So where it might cost under $1,000 to replace the bumper of that Civic, you're probably looking at about 30 or 40 grand to replace the bumper and everything else that goes with that Ferrari, because they're going to have to repaint the entire thing. The paint's got to be flawless. They have to ship the part in from Italy.
You got to find someone skilled to do it, because not a regular car shop could do that.
Yeah, you have to go to the dealership, which
Yeah.
fortunately there is one in Pinellas County, which is crazy.
Yeah.
To me, that's not
It
in
still
Tampa.
blows my mind that there's a Ferrari dealer here.
It's
right in Palm Harbor.
Palm Harbor of all
Yeah.
places. Not even in like St. Pete or like Clearwater. It's in
Maybe-
Palm Harbor.
Maybe real estate was cheap when they bought it? I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
Been there forever.
Yeah.
Before the Chick-fil-A was there across the street.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. So, you got to do all those things. And most people, when they get their liability coverage for their car, they go, okay, well, I want, $25,000 in bodily injury liability, and then, $25,000 in property damage, which will cover the other car, right? $25,000 if you burned a Ferrari isn't going to get you there.
No. I mean, that's probably the bumper.
Yeah, not even.
What's a Ferrari? 300 grand, I think?
Yeah, minimum.
Minimum?
That's base model.
You pauper.
Well, if you want to put stuff in perspective, like we were talking about Mark Wahlberg's net worth as of last year was $300 million. If you want to be even funnier, say he's in Optimus Prime.
Oh.
Optimus Prime's net worth, the guy who does his voice, is $6 million.
Okay. So that's, insane amount of money.
I think that guy that does Optimus Prime probably was one of those guys that did the AOL voice. Like, hey, we'll work you out a deal. We're going to do this small little animated cartoon, because it started as a cartoon first.
Right.
He's 78 years old now, and he's been voicing him since, I think, the beginning. So he's probably one of those guys that was like, hey, we'll do this little voice gig. You make $50, $100, whatever. And here he is, a millionaire.
No, he's Optimus Prime.
50 years later, yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
But let's, say you hit Mark Wahlberg in Optimus Prime. Okay, say you injure his back so he can't work anymore, he can't do those stunts. He's an action star by trade, right? If he can't do those stunts anymore, and he can't make those movies anymore, how much damage do you think he caused to him? I mean, in reality.
I mean, potentially millions of dollars in lost revenue.
I mean, Stallone and Schwarzenegger and Willis are still working into their 70s now.
Yeah.
And Mark Wahlberg's, 48?
Let me look. I didn't look at that. Let's see. Yep, he's 48. He was born in 71.
There you go. So you're talking about taking 30 years of his salary away, potentially. Yeah, you're looking at a few $100 million that you're now on the hook for because you rented him.
Well, it's interesting to put that in perspective, because a lot of people don't think of it that way. And there's I think there's a real life version of this right now that's just happening that people don't even think about. Have you guys heard about Kevin Hart?
Yeah.
Yep.
On the news? So Kevin Hart went down an embankment. I don't know how damaged the car was, but the pictures I saw were pretty messed up. It was an old restored Barracuda, 50 or 60s, model. So it didn't have airbags. It didn't have all the typical safety stuff modern cars have. I don't even know if it had seatbelts because some of those models didn't. You had to get it retrofitted. He got out, immediately went into rehab, and because he's a multi-millionaire, his cash value was able to put him and pay cash. I'm sure he has some kind of insurance as well because he's an actor, and he's, if I'm not mistaken, the highest paid comedian in the world right now, or at least the highest valued. Let's take a look and see what he is. HARTT or 1T?
1T.
So Kevin Hart's net worth as of last year was $150 million. So pretty high paid comedian, but when you think about it, the point I was trying to get at was the other two folks that were his friends from, if I'm not mistaken, before he became a comedian or someone. It was a personal trainer, I believe, his personal trainer and friend, and then his fiance.
Right.
He's been literally in a hospital. I think he's home now, but living in a hospital, going through massive amounts of surgery and rehab and all these different pieces, where Kevin Hart broke his back in like 5 places because of the value or the assessed cash he had at the time. He was able to whiz right through and get the best treatment, where this guy's in a hospital, hanging on.
Right.
And I don't know if it has a lot to do with the extent of the injuries, but my understanding was Kevin was just as injured, if not worse, than the gentleman who's still in the hospital or home now.
Right. Right.
So it goes back to insurance coverages, who's responsible, who's paying for it. In that situation, I know Florida's a no-fault state, right? So I don't know if California is too.
California is not. There's only five or seven
States
that are still considered no-fault states.
So in California, would they have gone back to his insurance, or would they have gone to Kevin's?
It would have gone to the bodily injury liability first on the car. I don't remember. Was it a one-car accident?
They were all 3 in it. So
Okay.
So the Kevin's friend was driving Kevin's car.
Okay.
Kevin was in the passenger seat, and the fiance of the driver was in the back seat.
Okay. So there's a couple ways this could play out. Because there is a coverage on your car insurance called uninsured motorist. We've talked about it before. That would pay out, but it would pay out last. So you're looking at the liability. I'm not sure how California's insurance laws work, but I would expect that Kevin Hart's bodily injury liability would pay out to his passengers if he was driving first, and then it would go to their uninsured motorist liability. And then from there you go into their health insurance. Kind of in that order.
Yep.
So, it's interesting. I hope he had enough coverage to cover his friend's medical bills.
Yep.
Being that he's a multi-millionaire, he should have had something in place.
Right. To protect his assets and himself.
Right, because he would also have a several $1 million umbrella as well if he's got a good representation, a good attorney, a good agent, and things like that. So,
plus the other thing you think about, and I don't know because I haven't followed the story that closely, but was the friend at fault? It could have been his fault for them crashing and causing all this bodily harm, not only to Kevin and to his fiance. So I mean, in that situation, if Kevin really wanted to be, technically, legally, obviously they're friends and things like that. Legally,
right.
He could have sued him for his negligence for creating the accident if that was the case. Now I don't know because I wasn't there and I don't know what's involved. I haven't followed the story. But technically, it might not have been Kevin's liability. It could have just been his car, and his friend was driving erratic or impaired or any number of things.
It could have been, and it's something you always have to consider. Make sure you have enough coverage to cover the things. And in Kevin Hart's case, if he was at fault, having the correct liability coverage, having an umbrella policy, even if he is himself a business, he's got himself registered as a business, have a general liability policy as well. Those 3 things can protect his assets from his friend, and he just use those to pay for his friend's medical bills. So nothing's coming out of pocket for him.
Yeah. People don't think about that stuff, though. I mean, they don't think about it at all.
No, they don't. Well, there was the case in Atlanta about the NBA player.
Yeah.
Hit by a drunk driver. You're talking about ruining his career is over.
Over, yeah.
Leaving practice in the middle of the day.
Right. Here's a fun thing. If you cause an accident while committing a crime, in this case he was drunk, that's committing a crime, your insurance coverage won't pay for the damage.
Ooh.
That's something people don't think about.
Right.
So technically, you're not liable. That's why I always laugh when I watch like these murder mystery shows, like Snapped and all this kind of stuff, and they're trying to kill people for life insurance money. And I'm like, you guys realize if you get caught, you get nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it's not like they're going to be like, oh,
You get a jail sentence. But
you get sentenced. You get the rest of your life is gone. You go to jail, and all kinds of other bad stuff happens. But it's like, what were you thinking? Like you were going to get away with it? I mean,
well, yeah.
But still, you bring up a valid point that if you're committing a felony, committing a crime, insurance coverage isn't in place.
Doesn't apply. So that person who has now ruined this basketball player's career has, now you have a DUI charge. Now you've got all these things that insurance coverage that they had. They could have had great coverage. Doesn't apply.
Well, plus the other thing to think about too is that particular person who's committing that crime probably doesn't, if they don't have the best judgment, probably doesn't have an abundant amount of assets. So if they're out there doing something stupid like that, and the NBA player wanted to retaliate to recoup the cost of medical or future earnings or all that kind of stuff, probably couldn't even sue the person that hit him because chances are there's not enough assets to make that available. And even if he does win a judgment, will the guy even pay it?
Right. And devil's advocate here, there's a very prominent attorney in the state of Florida who no longer has a license because he got caught driving drunk too many times.
Yep. He has a personal driver.
And he's got plenty of assets. I would argue he's got a pretty good head on his shoulders.
Yeah. They now advertise that they are the largest personal injury attorney in the country.
There you go.
Is what their current advertising slogan is.
Yeah. Because they spend more on marketing than I think I've made in my entire life.
Well, they have
in one day.
Offices in like 19 states now.
19?
Yeah. Well, they work exclusively. I mean, we're getting off topic here, but they work almost exclusively with 1-800-ASK-GARY. So wherever they are, they move offices into that state. So they're in Ohio and Georgia and a bunch of other states too.
Cool.
But anyway, off topic. But the whole point of that is there was a policy that NBA player could have taken out on himself for future earnings. Like what do they call them? Death and dismemberment or accident liability policy or something like that.
If he had it.
Right. But I mean, what would the cost of that have been? It couldn't have been something, a couple $100 a month.
For something like that, for his future earnings on that much.
Amount of money. Maybe $1,000 a month. Who cares? I mean, even if it's a couple thousand. If you paid $25,000 a year for a policy because you were making $80 million to ensure that you would make $80 million if you were to get injured, to me that's a no-brainer. That's cheaper than a college education or a car. If you're protecting that amount of assets, and I'm just pulling a number out of the air here, I don't know how much it is, but
yeah, and there's no way for me to know
right.
what that would be, and because it depends on so many different things.
You see a lot with football players when they're going from college to the pros. In the meantime, they want to take out a policy in case they get hurt while they're training or get hurt, something along those lines for a top 5 pick.
Yeah,
you lost out millions and millions of dollars for blowing an ACL, for trying to train and be 0.2 seconds faster than the next guy.
Yeah, that valid argument, and they're if they, like you said, they injure their ACL or something, they're pretty much shot. They have no career or no hope.
We see that with the Alabama quarterback.
Yeah, Tua.
Tua.
Now, to that point, I do know, because when Jameis Winston was coming out of Florida State, his last year there, he was guaranteed to be a top 5 pick. Florida State took out an insurance policy for Jameis Winston in case he got hurt. And it was something like, it was a $10 million policy. I think the university paid $350,000 for it.
They could afford it.
For about 1 year's worth of coverage.
But what is that football program worth to the college? I mean, I'm sure it makes them probably billions of dollars.
Not billions.
But at least hundreds of millions.
80% of the annual athletic budget comes from football.
So, well, what does it make the actual college? Because I'm sure for endorsements and advertising online and shirts and clothing and merchandise, I'm sure they all get a cut of that, right?
Yeah, well, Florida State's athletic budget last year was something around $100 million total. But they operated in the red, like most major universities.
Well, I mean, I think that's more of a budget, like, hold on. Let's see. I'm looking right now. What's the network Florida State football program? Let's see if we can find it. Let's see if it's public record. So
it's a state university.
Yeah, guaranteed to be. But you have to make sure that you protect, your future, your assets, and what's at stake when you're out there. And I tell people all the time, I don't care. I know you're a good driver, Chris. You are a great driver. I'm not worried about you. I'm worried about the other idiots on the road. That's my main concern. Is making sure that you're protected from them.
So the budget, this is for 2018 and 2019 year, was $1 million for the athletics program, and they made 106.95.
So the budget was 100.
Hold on. No, I'm sorry. The operating revenue dropped $9 million. Oh, excuse me. I'm sorry. I was misreading the article. I apologize. So the athletic department's operating revenue is projected to drop over $9 million over this year. But basically, they made $84 million last year with their athletics program. And it says they made $23.5 million just on ticket sales alone.
Right.
And it says they're expected to drop again this year because of transitions in the football world and all that kind of fun jazz.
Will they tag
paying out a little bit to get move from one coach to another.
Yep. But that's interesting, though, that they make that much money. But it's smart for them because they can ensure that their players will be there in case there's an injury or something happens.
Right.
I bet you they probably even insure the head coach.
Absolutely.
You know, probably a death policy or accident policy. I mean, what would happen if, hypothetically, worse? It hasn't happened, I think, in 20 or 30 years, but all the players get on a plane or a bus and it crashes and they all die.
That was
Marshall.
Marshall in the 70s.
Yep. Yeah, you know, it doesn't happen often, knock on wood, but it's happened, you know, and you lose an entire team.
Yeah.
Bet you that team wasn't insured.
Oh, no, in the 70s, probably not.
Yeah.
Nowadays,
No.
with as much money as they bring in, I almost guarantee they are. But it goes back to, you know, every major company has the important people
Insured.
from accidents, deaths, disability, whatever. They're all insured.
All your upper management, definitely.
Right. But when you think about your home as a corporation, are you insuring your upper management, your partner? Are you insuring yourself from disability, an accident, or death? 75% of Americans think they are, but in reality they aren't.
Well, when you put things in perspective, like you and I had a conversation about family members in my family last week, you know, and literally you talk about it and people are like, oh yeah, I'm preparing for this. I've gone to my attorney. I've gotten my will and my DNAs and all my, you know, do not resuscitates and blah, 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 power attorneys and all that stuff. And I've got life insurance. I've got this, this, and this. And in perspective, when you look at it, the family member we're talking about, I don't want to mention them by name, but I asked how much life insurance they have. And I mean, it's literally enough to bury them and maybe put enough, a little bit for the family for a year.
Yeah.
Maybe for operating expenses for a year. And they're not a spring chicken, so when you start to think about that, I'm like, okay, well, wouldn't you want to leave more for the family? Oh yeah, I'm going to get to it. And now they're staring down a health scare that potentially could be fatal.
It would, yeah, and it disqualifies them from getting that coverage.
Right.
So now
They're stuck.
Yeah.
Like you and I literally have started to have this conversation with that person a year ago about this every month. Hey, we should get in and have a conversation. Yeah, we're working on it. Life's in the way. We're busy, da-da-da. And here you are a year later, and now it's too late.
Yeah.
You know? So it's tough.
Choosing to be a one-income family is very different than being forced to be a one-income family.
Absolutely. That's a really good point. For all those folks listening and anybody that might need help or understanding or a quote or just some general information about insurance, we recommend you call our sponsors, Quote Savage. QuoteSavage.com can help you with life, home, auto, and I think coming soon they're going to be doing health and all kinds of other stuff. So there's all kinds of great features out there. Make sure you check them out, QuoteSavage.com. Let them know we sent you so you know we get some props and we can show them some love and check them out.
Yep, absolutely.
So we were talking about the necessity for understanding policies and understanding you have protection in places, and we use the fun analogies today talking about, you know, transformers and different things that are out there. But when you think about your home as a business or your family as a business and operating, I mean, think about that. Your mother and father are, you know, the CEO and or president and vice president of your family. They're bringing in the money, taking care of the kids. The kids are technically the employees. You know, you should still insure your employees too, especially if you have a important corporation or important company.
Right.
And think about those types of things. I mean, it's silly how inexpensive some of these insurance coverages are. I mean, when you guys are in the field, you know, you see these numbers day in and day out, but sometimes you're splitting hairs over hundreds of thousands of dollars over $20 or $30 a month.
Yeah.
Which to me makes absolutely no sense.
Right. And
You know?
it's crazy. You know, people are always like, well, I have this coverage through work. Great. So you're going to work until you die?
Yeah. What happens if your company goes under?
Yeah.
How many people? I mean, there's going to be 2,100 retail stores going out of business in the next 12 months, I think was a statistic we talked about a couple shows ago. So if you work for one of those retail companies, guess what? You don't have coverage. It's gone.
Right.
Or if you retired from those retail companies, they're going to come back and look at their benefit package for that and shrink that back to make those stores last longer, which they probably already have and have now exhausted it.
Yep.
So now they're less insured and looking down retirement to do what?
Yeah, how many people have been in a union or a pension or some kind of group savings plan with companies that have just gone away or been purchased or been sold or gone bankrupt?
I mean, Sears last year cut benefits for all their pensioners.
Yeah.
Because, well, Sears is not a healthy company.
Right. Mm-hmm. It's going away. It's now defunct, right? I think they're physically bankrupt now.
I think so, yeah.
I think they closed their last store. What they couldn't turn into, they were trying to turn their stores into franchise stores like Ace Hardware, but
yeah, the one in Tampa I just went by the other day is demolished, completely gone.
Wow.
Right off the mall by the college.
I mean, there you go. So you can't rely upon that.
No, there's a lot of people that have been around for a long time that are hanging on by a thread. And I think Sears is the oldest retail store, right? Because they started as a catalog.
Yeah. Sears and Roebuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then so now, I mean, you look at people like JCPenney circling the drain. I'm amazed at how JCPenney stays open. I have no idea how they stay open because, like, you walk in there, there's nobody in the store, and there's nothing that people want to buy in the store.
Right.
So
I don't know. Toys R Us is coming back, but going back to the benefits through work, we talked about your wife. I mean, I'm not going to give specific numbers, but she has life insurance through work. It's a good policy, but as we started going through things about what would happen if she went away and it was just you, and your baby, the numbers don't add up.
No, not at all. When you look at like your cost, especially over last year, buying a new house, moving into a new county, all these different things. If there was something to happen to one of us, that's why you and I always talk about like my life insurance. If something was happened to me,
right,
and I was passed away, I want to make sure that she can pay off all the debt and have enough to live on for 2, 3, 4 years and not have to go back to work if she doesn't want to.
Right.
Like literally just pay off the house, pay off the mutual debt, credit cards or anything we owe, and put the rest of this in an investment fund or a savings fund, and you can just live. You don't have to worry about going back to work the week after you bury me or something because you have to go back to work.
Right. You can be okay.
Right.
And that's important because you chose this house probably for school districts, and so if your child has to be uprooted to go to another school district that is now affordable, air quoting affordable, is that really going to be what your wishes were when you first moved here?
Right. Exactly the point. And people don't think about that. Mm-hmm. I mean, think about the people that have 4 or 5 kids. I only have one. But what about the families where, there's 4 or 5 kids and a wife dies or a husband dies,
That's that caretaker.
Yeah.
That's that breakfast maker. That's that, school lunch packer.
Chauffeur.
Chauffeur.
Well, we talked this week about, the other family member I'm referring to. They're the caretaker in the family and how much it would take to replace that person with a non-skilled, non-nursing, just a person to come in and cook, clean, keep up the house because the other family member wouldn't be able to do that alone.
Right.
And what was it, $300 a day? I think is what
minimum, yeah.
So it was $108,000 or $109,000 a year to have someone come in 8 hours a day to do the household work, to maintain that person, that other spouse.
Right.
Which is baffling to me. I mean, nobody has $108,000 laying around cash. They can go, here's a check. See you later. Yeah. No. And if you don't have enough insurance to cover that,
you're done.
What do you do?
And this other person could be living for 20 years after, your family member goes away. So you're looking at $22 million.
Yeah.
And just
care. Yeah. Just care. Not even like, hey, they got to go to an assisted living facility, or hey, they've got their health is deteriorating. They need a nurse, or they need
just basics.
Yeah. Just like cook, clean, groceries, basic stuff, which is scary. And people don't think about that.
No.
At all.
No.
They shop on price. They shop on, the perceived value.
Or there's no need. I know I need it, but I don't want to spend the money on it.
Not right now. I'll get it closer to when things are going to happen.
When you really can't afford it.
When you're dead.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll wait 20 years.
When you're dying. What baffles me is the things that people will spend stupid, wasteful amounts of money on and not even consider things like insurance as a necessity. And I know you guys, it's your industry, so you see it and it's necessary. I have a quick story before, because we're at about a minute left, but in my past life in healthcare, I owned and ran a integrated healthcare facility and helped to manage our medical weight loss department. And still to this day, this stuck with me. We had a client come in, wanting to lose weight, was obese, wanted to lose over 100 pounds, and saw value in what we were doing. And our program wasn't expensive. It was about $300-400 a month. Gave you food, gave you medical supervision. You're guaranteed to lose X amount of pounds if you stuck to the diet. Had a real issue with foregoing their Starbucks budget. They spent $5 a day every day of the month on Starbucks. That was one drink. It's $4 and change. Every day on the way to work or the way home, got that drink. So we ran the numbers and we're like, look, you can't do Starbucks on this weight loss plan because it has too much sugar and da-da-da-da. So you have to give up your Starbucks for the amount of time you want to lose weight. I'm not saying indefinitely, just 5 months, 6 months, you're done. Well, I've allocated $150 a month for Starbucks, and I don't want to give that up. That's what I want to spend. So literally couldn't afford the weight loss program because they were spending $150 on Starbucks each month. So it really puts things into perspective when you're like, okay, half of your weight loss budget to get healthy, to get off your high blood pressure meds, to get off all these different things you're on, and to lose 100 pounds, which we can help you do, couldn't give up Starbucks for $150 a month.
Why add value to your life?
Yeah, it's crazy. That's crazy. And by the way, for $150 a month, a healthy adult can get over $1 million in life insurance.
Yeah, which, think about that, break it down, that's a Starbucks a day.
Yeah, and well over $1 million. But that's crazy.
Blows my mind to this day. That story has stuck with me all these years, because it's been 10 years now since I've been in that industry, and it still sticks with me because that was the mentality of the person. Couldn't get over the Starbucks.
See, priorities, man.
Yeah.
Where are the priorities?
I have tons of stories like that. I have someone who actually came in and had a ton of insurance, was well insured, had COPD, 6 months to live, give or take, maybe a year. Actually said they came in to lose weight because they wanted to leave a good-looking corpse. The person was a little overweight and wanted to lose weight, wanted to be in good shape because they were apparently going to do an open casket and all that stuff. And I said, well, you're going to spend a couple $1,000s over the next 6 months. Why not just leave it to your family? Like, you're literally on your way out.
Right.
No, they can do whatever they want. Didn't want to leave her family the money. Wanted to more vain and wanted to look good when she passed versus when they passed versus.
Hey, live fast, die young, leave a good-looking corpse.
Hey,
Right? That's
moral of the story is put your money where it's more productive, where it can take care of you or your family. And literally, we're not even talking tons of money.
No.
I mean, in most cases, it's pennies.
no.
Pennies for coverage.
It's the decision. People having to talk about the inevitable. We're all going to be in the same place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's for me. Like, I'm going to die. I don't care. Do whatever you want with me after I'm gone. Just make sure you got enough money to take care of yourself.
You might die. I'm not gonna.
You're going to live
So
forever?
I'm gonna live forever.
You got that insurance?
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank Chris for joining us in this episode of Insurance Sucks, and I want to thank our sponsors, Quote Savage. Check them out, quotesavage.com. Make sure you let them know we sent you, get a free quote. Check out all the cool coverages and things that they can offer. And Daryl, thanks again, obviously, for being my co-host this episode, and we look forward to hearing you next time.
Thank you, Eric. I appreciate it.
Thanks. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to Helium Radio. The views expressed by show hosts or their guests are their own and should not be construed in any way as advice from Helium Radio. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our website. Personal perspectives expressed by the producers, writers, and editors will always be presented as such. Any rebroadcast or retransmission without the express written consent of Helium Radio is strictly prohibited. Thanks for listening.